Hey guys, CreamCrazy here. It's time. It's a Sunday. Well, it's 21 minutes past midnight, but it is officially a Sunday, which means Q and A. I have waited so long to do this. I cannot wait. Thank you for the 7 guys who put questions in for this. 11 questions in total. And guys, if you out there saw my videos pleading for questions, you didn't put a question in for this, right? There is a small incentive for you because the first couple of these Q&As I do, the people who put their questions in, their channels will be in the description box ready to click so you guys who are watching can check out these awesome people. Yeah? Although, as of now, I do know one of the channels doesn't actually exist. So, make that 6 people. But anyway, let's get on with this thing. These questions aren't going to answer themselves. First one, my friend at college, Dan in a bouncy castle. Love that name. Of course, it looks by looks of it, you haven't watched WWE in quite some time because when I did actually, because you put a spelling error in this question, I had to get the answer to that from you. You asked me, is Kane gonna come back? Now I can tell you now, in hindsight and good news, that Kane is still in the WWE. So you're all things are happy, nothing to worry about. Kane is still there. You can have a big smile on your face. Right, next up, Habashme, better known to me as Joe. Thank you so much for the epic Facebook conversations we've had over the past month. It's been awesome. However, I will say this though. I will not answer this question fully. This question, WWE has started doing a lot more kid-like gimmicks. Do you think the PG rating will affect WWE a lot more in the future? And do you think the PG rating has put buy rates down and changed the way matches work without blood? I can't answer this today. And I'll give you a reason why. Because after Money in the Bank, I have a 50 minutes of fame on the PG rating. So, unfortunately, if I had done this a bit earlier, I probably wouldn't have stuck it on there. But yeah, so I will answer this question, Joe, in that video because it'll be part of the fundamental part of it. Okay, so don't worry. You can't. God, you stuck another question in there because it would have definitely been a problem for me not to answer one of your questions. But you understand, hopefully, so everything's okay. Jerichoholic129 says, "What would be your dream tag team?" This one took me a little while to think because I think in a tag team you've got to have people who one look the same, or in other cases have the same in-ring style, or and basically have the same type of gimmick. So if a tag team can have any of those three, it should be a good thing. Now, I would put together if he was still alive, Benoit and Daniel Bryan together because they both are great grapplers, great submission workers, and for the most part, they have got some high flying moves attached to them. They're very intense in the ring. Their mic work would be good, I'd think, and I think they'd probably be the most legitimate tag team in WWE if they were a tag team. They would actually make the tag team championships worth something, wouldn't they? And sure, if Benoit was alive, he'd probably be on his last year or two before retiring. He would need to push a guy, and to push a guy who's one of the best wrestlers in the world with the other one, who is Benoit, was one of the best wrestlers in the world, it would be the perfect team. The perfect team, I think, for a mat wrestling freak like me and a few other people out there in the world somewhere. I think that would be a great team. It took me a while to think of what kind of tag team I'd put together, and that would be just the perfect team, I think. Just imagine the epic matches. Because I remember when Benoit and Angle had the tag titles when it first got formed in 2002. The tag matches they put on there were epic. And I think these two, Bryan and Benoit, would do it. They would be able to put on great matches. Erla29, who is the one, sadly, with the account I can't actually access. So that's the one problem. One of the account doesn't exist. Yeah, big whoop. But thank you for the question anyway. He says, "What is the best pay-per-view you have seen pre-2007?" Now, if I had done this video about a month ago, I would have said WrestleMania X7 because it is the epitome of perfection when it comes to WrestleMania and most wrestling pay-per-views. However, this is slightly biased, I believe, but I reviewed SummerSlam 2002, I think about a month ago, for my first Friday flashback. I watched it, and whilst watching it, going completely mental, the idea and the conception of WrestleMania X7 as the epitome of wrestling pay-per-views kind of, for the best part, started having cracks in it. Because SummerSlam 2002 had everything I would want. A 4 or 5 technical wrestling matches, a bloodbath, and a main event with such magnitude that you could call it one of the greatest main events of all time. And the other matches on it were meh, but you'd still want to watch them anyway. With WrestleMania X7, sure, you had fantastic commentary and some of the best matches, but you had a Divas match in there, which was shite. You had a six-man tag match, which was shite. You had a gimmick battle royal, which, even for nostalgia value for some, to me was complete shite. So, in legitimacy's sake, SummerSlam 2002, to me, overtakes that. Because it's just got more that I would like to watch. So, it is slightly biased in my opinion that I like a pay-per-view I've recently reviewed as my favourite pay-per-view of all time, but that's just how it is, you know? I mean, it would have been X7, but tell you now, X7's been up there since I bought it, right? That was about, what, 5-6 years ago? But even earlier than that, 5 or 6, 7 years ago I bought the original X7 DVD, so, yeah. Right, Decipher Down 75 says, why is a great talent like Drew McIntyre getting wasted? The thing is, the guy, I actually like Drew. He's a good in-ring worker, has a good moveset, and he has a theme tune to die for. Broken Dreams is fucking epic. The only problem I have with Drew McIntyre, and I think a lot of people do, is he hasn't got charisma. And that is the one reason I believe why he's getting wasted. Because nowadays you need to talk the talk rather than walk the walk to make it in this company. The Miz, even though he actually improved his in-ring ability, talked like no one else and managed to become WWE champion. You see the connection. So I think to myself, right, Drew needs to up his game mic-wise, because if you've heard him speak when he was Intercontinental Champion, he was speaking, he just kind of sounded really monotone. And if you haven't heard his promos, go look him up. But to me, he just sounds like the typical PG era wrestler, where you basically don't put any personality into this promos, and it basically sounds shit. And that is not going to get the crowd behind you at all, okay? The crowd are going to go, oh, this guy's boring as shit. But then when he wrestles in the ring, go, ooh, this guy isn't bad. So if he was able to up his game on the mic, he would actually be able to do something good, I feel. But that goes into the next question, the first of 4, by Y2J Rocky Fan 19. Thank you for those. Who asked, what should WWE do with Drew McIntyre? Now, if I was the creative team, if I was the creative guys in the back, I would give Drew McIntyre the US title. Because for a guy like him, like Drew McIntyre, who was at one point pinned to win the World Championship via Money in the Bank, and he was Vince's chosen one, plus the fact that he is actually quite over with the crowd. If you did not see SmackDown when I was at the O2 that week, that SmackDown taping, he got a massive pop. And sure, being in Britain, you'd expect that, but in most cases, I think if he's given the mid-card title, he can have some good matches, expose himself, and have his ability to work the mic a bit better. Because you need a place to expose yourself. And in my opinion, you can't do any better than having a mid-card title on your hands. It's better than having it with Dolph Ziggler, because he's completely fucked up his opportunity. He's got the same problem. So, if WWE was ever going to do this, I would definitely say put the mid-card title on him. Get him into the limelight. Get people to know he's actually still there, because some people are really forgetting about him. So, yeah, I would literally just go and tell him, fuck this, put him in a mid-card title match, let him get out there. Better than anything else I would do, anyone else in WWE would do, that's for sure. Havishme, your second question. What would make you ever stop watching WWE? If WWE wanted to make you stop watching, what bad thing would they have to do to make you stop? Right, this is the one question that took me a long time to think about. Because I can deal with the crappy gimmicks. I can deal with the crappy storylines. I can deal with John Cena winning even though I hate it so much. I dealt with a lot of things. I've dealt with the Katie Vick storyline. I dealt with the Dawn Marie, Al Wilson storyline. I dealt with the Hornswoggle as McMahon's illegitimate son. I dealt with a lot of things that WWE has thrown at me over the years. See, because the thing is, when I started watching, I thought and believed fully, being an uber-obsessive fan, that WWE was a legitimate company. A legitimate sports company, should we say. Where the drama was just part of it. Kind of like where UFC are trying to adapt it right now with the wrestling, with the banter talk. So, I thought when Eddie Guerrero died, I thought, oh god, this is really sad. But they still went on. Okay, everything was normal. They still mentioned him, etc. When the Benoit tragedy happened, however, that was when I started to look and take notice and think, hold on a second, this is not legitimate after all. This company is not a legitimate company. You know why? They actually erased their own part of their history. And that made me sick to my stomach. Because this made me see, for the first time in my life, WWE as a company that is willing to do what it wants with its own self. And say, okay, we don't want to remember this, so we will just get rid of it. Basically, at that same time, I just discovered wrestling websites, thinking, oh, hold on a second, this is inside stuff. But then I find out they're deleting their own history to not allow this to be out there. It's just wrong. I don't know. I just have always felt, since day one, that was a really bad idea. Kurt Angle even said, you can try and get rid of it all you want, but it's still going to be there. It's still going to be in there as part of your history. You cannot get rid of it, right? The Holocaust is one of the most tragic and most horrific things to ever happen in the world, right? We don't erase that from the history books, do we? It's something really, really bad. In fact, even Germany have attempted to try and remove Nazi area of their history from their history books. They've tried. Tiananmen Square has been removed from China because they don't want it either. But you see, even with this censorship that sometimes happens with these events, they still remain there. What happened before it and after still remains. And the fact that WWE had the audacity to do that made me really angry. Because at the time, when the Benoit tragedy happened, I was coming out of a depression, and then it put me straight back in it because I was pissed off and angry that Vince McMahon had ever done such a horrible thing. Because it's just retarded that someone would erase part of the history just because they could. Because no one can delete the history. No one can delete the history at all. After what happened with O.J. Simpson, the NFL teams that had him can't erase the records he made. Surely in the NFL Hall of Fame they can't erase them either. And you see my point. History can't be erased. And if WWE ever did this again, if they ever did this again, I would stop in a heartbeat. I would stop watching if another wrestler died who was under contract in unusual circumstances. If it was big enough to warrant it, and they deleted the history of them, I would stop. Because out of everything I've ever watched in WWE, watching this company, this is the one thing that led me to nearly stopping. Because from 2007 till basically when the tragedy happened, till the week McMahon got punted in the head by Randy Orton, I watched wrestling every couple of weeks, every couple of months, keeping up with an occasional edition of SmackDown and the occasional pay-per-view. I didn't really watch it. That was the first time I'd ever had that kind of problem. All because, they're not going to mention Benoit. It's an awful thing. Because it was to me. Because I loved Benoit as a wrestler. I still do. And for the most part, I found the erasing of the history to be wrong in every way possible. So I know it's obviously they had to do it for their own publicity's sake, but at the same time, like I said, you can't erase history. It's there. You can't do anything about it. The fact that they included him in the WWE Encyclopedia is a prime example of why. And yeah, it's just that. I've not liked Vince McMahon for doing that from day one. So that's a problem I'm always going to have to love with me. So yeah, basically, if a guy is erased from the history books, again, I am never going to watch another WWE piece of programming. So that won't ever happen, I don't think. So you guys can rest assured these videos will continue for as long as I can. So as long as that doesn't happen, I should be okay. Try and see if I can answer another question. Oh, no, I'm not going to be able to answer another question before this video runs out of time. I'm going to have to go to part 2. Fuck. I just hope this wouldn't have gone to a part 2. So guys, I hope you guys can come back for part 2. So see you in a bit.